Madeline Soto's 13th birthday party was on Sunday, February 25th. The party was at a relative's house and she was surrounded by family. But one person who wasn't there was her mother, Jen Soto. She was working. Madeline's mother and father were not together. In fact, her dad married another woman a couple of months after she was born. But there was a man living in her house. Her mom's boyfriend, Stephan Stearns was at the birthday party. And at some point after the party and before she was supposed to be at school the following day, Madeline was murdered. Stearns is the prime suspect because he was the last known person to be with her, and he is alleged to have hundreds of disturbing photos on his phone of Madeline being sexually abused. Investigators are putting together a timeline. They have gathered surveillance video from the complex where they lived, tracking Stearns' movements. They also have license plate reader information and eyewitness statements, all connected to Stearns and his car. Tonight, we'll take a look at that evidence and identify what's missing and what it means as we continue our investigation into the tragic life and death of Madeline Soto.
I'm Vinny Politan. Thank you so much for joining us tonight here on Closing Arguments. And in this case involving Madeline Soto, looking at all the evidence and what we know at this point, what has been made public at this point, by statements by investigators, statements by Stephan Stearns, Jen Soto, others who were at the house or at the party that day, it's just not clear what was happening. It is not clear what was happening between the time of that party and the time that Madeline was supposed to show up at school. And the more you focus in on that actual morning, based on the timeline that's being established, none of it makes sense. It doesn't make sense to me. Something weird was happening, and is it panic? Is it, I don't know what it is. But what I do know is when you try to put it together in some logical form, some of the actions and things that are time-stamped that we know happened that morning, it still is confusing. And it starts because of Stephan Stearns. I mean, his activities that day, suspicious to say the least. Now, we know he's got problems. We know he's been arrested, not charged with the murder, but a prime suspect in the murder, but puts himself as the last known person to be with the victim in this case. And then we know what was on his phone, hundreds of images of Madeline being sexually abused and him being the abuser. Those are the allegations against him. So that's obviously suspicious, to say the least about it. But just what he was doing that morning, why? Why is he up so early? Why is he driving seemingly in and out of the complex? Where is he going? Where did he go? Where was he leaving? Why was he returning? Why is he at the dumpster? Why is he driving back at 8:19 with Madeline in the car when school starts at 9:30? None of this makes sense. And when you look at this timeline, you're trying to figure out, what does it tell us about whether it's the flat tire, driving on the other side of it's not even the town, he's in another city. I mean, he's driving 22 miles away to do what? At least Scott Peterson told us, oh yeah, I went fishing in the bay. Well, we know what he was doing there, but at least he had a story for it. There was never a story from Stephan Stearns about why he's driving around St. Cloud that day. And he lives in Kissimmee, and I don't think he has a job. Really suspicious. And what does it mean that he's there at 1 o'clock? And then all this activity in the morning, the dumpster, driving away from the school, driving back into the complex, and then saying that he goes back out. What does it mean? What does it tell us? Tonight, we're going to try to dig a little deeper into all of it to try to make some sense of it, of what it could mean in this case. I mean, my gut reaction is telling me this is just utter panic. Utter panic. That you know, things happened, he's not prepared for it, and now he's scrambling. But then you look at the one other thing, like Jen Soto. Why is her story somehow corroborating his story? You know, there's two explanations for it. One, she's being forced to say it, threatened to say it, just parrots whatever he says because he controls her in some way, or she's just flat out lying and covering for him. Let's take a listen to Jen Soto, because you look at what happened to Madeline, all of this is taking place at her birthday party, right? She's alive at her birthday party, turning 13, which leaves the question, when was she murdered? She's celebrating. She's got her birthday dress on. There's people over a relative's house. We think it's grandma's house. There's a cake. There's like everything that's normal, seemingly normal on this day, except one thing. It's not normal. We plan the child's birthday party, celebration with relatives on a day when mom can't make it. Like, mom's not there, but the alleged sex abuser is there, and the rest of the family. Let's take a listen to the interview from WFTV, Jen Soto, again, talking about this is the last time that we know she's alive, the birthday party.
She had a birthday party on Sunday. She had a great time. I couldn't make it because I was working, but she had an amazing time. She was so happy with all her gifts. I told her good night, and yeah, that was it.
Told her good night where? Back home? Were you back home and was everyone there? Was she dropped off? Were you talking to her on the phone? I don't know. Is this the last time you talked to your daughter? I just think the description would be a little more specific. I mean, at that point, the body of Madeline hasn't been found. She's a missing child, but still your child is missing. That's never good. Yeah, I told her good night, and that was it. That was it. There was nothing else to it. Nothing else happening. Where's everybody else? Where are you? Did you come back from work yet? Because your mother said you worked late and you're real tired the next morning. So let's go back to the party now, because we do have some video from that party. This is from TikTok, and it's Madeline, and you'll actually get to hear her. It's a short video, but it tells me one thing. It's a party, right? It's a party, so people take pictures and videos of the birthday girl. Take a look.
You can talk. Okay.
She seems to me older than what I was thinking from just the images of her. You know, her voice, she just seems more mature. I wonder if that's playing a role in everything that happened to her. She's now growing up. Let me bring in my guests. Joining me in Miami, Florida, co-host of Surviving the Survivor podcast. You need to watch it. Joel Waldman is with us. In Orlando, Florida, editor of the Osceola News-Gazette, Ken Jackson, and in Los Angeles, board-certified forensic psychiatrist, trial expert witness, and columnist, Dr. Carol Lieberman. Dr. Lieberman, I'll start with you. In that short video that we just saw of Madeline on her 13th birthday, did anything strike you about that video? Whether it's the way she was acting, the way she presented herself. To me, it's the first time I've heard her talk.
Yes. I wanted more. That's what was the first thing I thought. In a way, I mean, she does seem older. Of course, you know, she's been through a lot since 8 years old. She's had to grow up. The other thing is, do you notice how she looks, other than being younger, she looks similar to her mother? And I think that may well have played a role in the abuse. You know, even when, especially when they wear glasses, both wear glasses, there's a real similarity.
Oh, absolutely. I see it, and I see it in that video more than anywhere. Joel, first time I've got to speak to you about this case, and I know you're covering it in depth as well. What questions do you have about this birthday party? I mean, to me, this is such a significant event. This is the last time that she's interacting with people. It's the last time she's known to be alive, and it just seems like there should be a treasure trove of information coming out of that party.
Yeah, well, kudos to you, Vinny, and thank you for having me back on, for asking all those difficult questions. I mean, these are all the questions that a reporter should be asking, and I've asked them myself. I can tell you from personal experience, I have a book out, I'm going on a book tour, and this morning, my wife said, how on earth are you going to miss your 5-year-old birthday? And I said, look, I'll do whatever I can. Maybe we can push it up. But without question, your question about why the mother, Jennifer Soto, was not there on the day of the birthday is the most pressing and most alarming question to me, albeit her grandmother was there. But it is so odd. My wife would never miss one of my young children's birthdays. Got a 10, an 8, and a 5-year-old. She makes it a point. You know, she's organizing 6 months out. So for a mom not to be there, and I get it. Look, people come up on hard times. They have to work. Maybe she had to be at work. But you'd think that they would arrange it in such a way. And this just leads me back, and of course the psychologist can talk more about this very seemingly unusual relationship between Jennifer and Stephan Stearns. We've all seen by now these local TV interviews, the ones where he's pacing back and forth behind her. He almost looks like a bouncer at a bar. There's a weird control issue going on there. So I am most curious to know why the mother was not at the birthday.
Ken Jackson, this birthday party, and there's a lot of people there, it seems, but we're not hearing from a lot of people that were there. Hopefully they have spoken and given a lot of information to investigators about that day. But what surprised me is this did not begin as a homicide investigation. It began as a missing persons case. And everyone at that party, it has significant information, and I would have thought if you were at the party and she goes missing the next day, everybody would be out talking about what happened the day before, trying to draw up some leads in all of this.
Right, well, and you're right, this was a missing persons case from the Monday when she was reported missing to the Wednesday when we heard from Orange County Sheriff John Mina said, no, we have good information that she is dead. It is also my understanding that everybody that's been at that party has been interviewed by investigators, may have a hand in why this investigation is taking a while from Kissimmee police. Something that, we've gone around and I've mentioned it, how a mother would not be at her daughter's 13th birthday party. I mean, she's becoming a teenager. We think that the party was at a grandparent's house. Makes me wonder, did the grandparents actually put it on, plan it, have all the hand in it, and Jen, the mom, was just sort of detached from it and was like, well, I'm going to be at work. And, like you guys said, there's no way you would miss that.
That's a great point, because my guess is, she's working, she's struggling to, to stay ahead as a single mom. Stephan Stearns, I just don't think he's contributing anything to this home other than pain. Let's take a closer look at who may have been at that party, because there's a few clues when you look first at the picture we're looking at now. If you take a look at it, on the right side of the picture, you see a reflection. We're going to put a little outline there so you can kind of see where we're drawing your attention to. It looks like a man all the way on the right, standing, much larger, with a hat on, it appears. And then to the left of there, it looks like you have a couple of people sitting down. And I was like, well, who else is at this party? Is it just men or is it like a bunch of people? Then we took a look. I got a little tip from Gray Hughes to take a look at the balloons. And if you look in the balloons, wait a minute, there's reflections. You get a much, I think, clearer picture that, hey, there's a bunch of folks there, and they're taking pictures as well. Looks like a guy's got a cell phone going right there. I look on the right-hand side on that balloon. That almost, to me, looks like grandma. People could disagree, but the balloon on the right, the balloon on the left, I see, at least 1, 2, 3, 4. Looks like at least 6 people there. So there are things happening. There's people there. Dr. Carol Lieberman, these are people you want to talk to. You want to talk about how was she acting? And what was the dynamic? Like, who was there at the end of the party? Did she leave the party? Did she stay at grandma's? Did Stephan Stearns drive her somewhere? These are the questions that and information I think those folks would have that is significant. And I wonder, I've got to think they're all going to volunteer that information.
Well, one would hope. Yes, they could really provide a lot of good information, particularly about the relationship between Madeline and Stephan. Did she try to spend a lot of time with him? Did she try to not? Was she like trying to be away from him during the night? Was she talking to other people, other men, or yes, they would have a lot of information. You know what else? Her teachers. I hope that the police are talking to her teachers, all the teachers from age 8 up, to the present, because they really should have and would have, maybe they didn't realize what they were watching, but they would have a lot of information because they would have seen or should have realized from the time that she was beginning to be abused, there are signs. I mean, I'm not trying to put it all on the teachers, but there are signs that teachers could have seen, things like, was she very quiet? Was she anxious? Was she depressed? Did she not like to be touched? Did she not like to be too close to people? Did she act out in school? Now, I know her mother said that she had ADHD, and I know that there was some talk about her possibly being on the autism spectrum. So some of these symptoms of abuse could also be symptoms of those disorders. So, of course it's hard to tease these things out, but it certainly is worth talking to all of her teachers intensively and seeing whether they can tell something, whether they can see also her progression over the years. Did she get more and more withdrawn? Whatever, some kind of sign that there was something going on. Just like we talked about, the mother should have noticed that there were certain signs. The teachers could well have noticed too.
Joel, I want to show you some more pictures from the birthday party from TikTok that were posted. And this made it very clear that the party was not at their home, because this is a completely different neighborhood, different types of homes. But it's incredibly tragic, Joel, to look at this and think about what this symbolizes. Like, this is her last moments, perhaps of happiness on earth, trying to grab some happiness in between the abuse that was taking place. But this was it, like your 13th birthday party, and then someone takes your life.
It is unthinkable. It's a cliche in news. It's a parent's worst nightmare. And sadly, in this case, we don't yet know if it was this parent's worst nightmare. You'd like to think that that's the way she feels. But again, there's so much to unravel here between the relationship between Jennifer Soto and her boyfriend, Stephan Stearns. There are so many alarms that go off. There are reports that the mother, Jennifer Soto, was letting Stephan Stearns sleep in bed with him, which obviously is really incredibly disturbing. And then for me, one of the questions that I have, and I've asked investigators, was this a premeditated killing or was this an impulse killing? And was the trigger the 13th birthday? Obviously, we keep going back to this 13th birthday. We know this abuse was going on for at least 2 years. That's what authorities say. But he was living with them for like 7 years, I believe it is. And you have to wonder, did it go on even beyond that? But disturbing all around, to say the least.
Big thanks to Dr. Carol Lieberman. Joel and Ken are going to stay with us. When we come back, we are going to take a look at that timeline and try to make sense of what could have been happening in that chaotic morning that she was reported missing. Plus, coming up next hour.
In Los Angeles, California, Miami, Florida, and New York City, the federal sex trafficking investigation connected to hip-hop mogul Sean Diddy Combs. What was going on in these alleged freak-off sex parties? And is there video evidence of crimes?
It sounds like in Diddy's case, there might actually be an enterprise that was operating, a sex enterprise. And it sounds like in Diddy's case, there might be other people involved, other celebrities involved.
A Michigan mother accused of killing her husband and then fleeing the country.
The defendant was extradited from Italy.
His charred remains found in a box in a blueberry patch.
The defendant could be punished with life without parole.
2 people have been convicted in this case.
Was Beverly McCallum running away from a criminal past?
Now it's up to a jury to decide.
The Fugitive Wife Murder Trial. Live coverage weekday mornings, 8, 7 Central on Court TV.
Our detectives have determined that Madeline was never dropped off on the morning of February 26th near her school. Instead, we believe she was already dead at the time and that Stephan Stearns moved her body in the early morning hours on that day.
That statement, moved her body in the early morning hours, but moved it from where to where, and what was the purpose? We know where she was found, but what was the purpose in the early morning hours? Let's go back to this timeline. 7:35 on video. We've seen where the cameras are. Stearns is discarding Madeline's backpack and school laptop in the dumpster at the Venetian Bay Villages complex, okay? That is near the back exit/entrance to the complex. 8:10 a.m., a license plate reader catches Stearns' plates driving away from Hunters Creek Middle School. How far from the school were they? How close were they? That's not clear. But that's at 8:10, and we know 9 minutes later, Stearns is returning to Venetian Bay apartment complex, and Madeline can be seen in the vehicle. And that's when police believe she is deceased at the time on that video at 8:19. Returning home. Why? What for? And where was he before that? And then later in the day, hours later, between 1 and 2:30, Stearns is spotted in the St. Cloud area. Again, this is like 17 to 22 miles away, changing a flat tire. And we're going to go into detail on the flat tire in a minute. But I want to focus in the next segment. But I want to focus here on this 7:35, 8:10, 8:19. What's going on? Still with me, the co-host of the Surviving the Survivor podcast, Joel Waldman, and the editor of the Osceola News-Gazette, Ken Jackson. And joining us in Portland, Oregon, podcaster Gray Hughes of Gray Hughes Investigates. Gray, let me start with you on this. Where he's moving the body, that's what they're saying. He's moving her body in the morning. If he's at the dumpster at 7:35, and then at 8:10 is seen driving away from Hunters Creek, wherever in the area he is at that point, but moving, not going towards the school, but is driving in the opposite direction from that school at 8:10, where'd he go? What would be the purpose of any of this?
Yeah, I mean, that's the part that's really strange. At, I think it was, remember we talked about the other day, 11:49, he's on that app. So maybe something happened to Madeline in the early morning hours. I don't think people consider 8:19 and 7:45 early morning hours. That's just sort of normal morning hours, right? So it seems like something would have happened before that. But then you look at 7:45, he's putting the laptop and the backpack in the dumpster. And then he leaves. So you would assume that she's in the car. I think he leaves. I mean, we don't actually know if he's leaving then, but he does come back at 8:19. So obviously he left after 7:45. He leaves, and then he comes back, and she's seen in the car, and they believe she's not alive. So did he put her somewhere first and then go, oh, man, that's not a good spot, and then go get her and then bring her back? And then what's crazy is that's 8:19. Where was Madeline before he left the apartment at like 12:30 to show up where his car had the flat tire at 1:20? I mean, that's like 4 hours where she's just sitting
four
in the car.
hours, right? What?
Right.
Ken Jackson, I'm looking at this timeline. 7:35, throwing the backpack out. He's near the back of the complex. So if he leaves there at like 7:40 or something, you could get to the school by about 8 o'clock. And then if you left the school, you'd probably be back at around 8:19. I don't know where this license plate reader is, but it's not. It seems like she's got to be already dead at this point, because it doesn't seem like there's enough time in any of this drive. And why would you get rid of the laptop and the backpack if she's still alive, right? That part, I don't think that would make sense.
All it tells me is if you've got a teenager in the car who's still alive, and then Stephen trashes the backpack and the laptop, wouldn't there be signs of life? Like if I'm 13 and someone's pitching my stuff and I'm still up, I'm going to jump out and why? What are you doing? Why all this? I'm a little disturbed that he drove to the school at 10 after 8. Now, if we go by what Sheriff Mina says, she's already dead. Why are you driving by the school with a dead body? Unless it's in the trunk, otherwise you've seen it. I mean, that would put you into some. You're at a school. There's liable to be crossing guards, school resource officers, people to see you. So that kind of distresses me as part of the timeline that he would drive to the school. If you say we've got the reader leaving the school at 10 after 8, and he's back in the apartment complex 8:19, that's pretty quick. Going from 100th Street to that's the western side of Kissimmee. That's pretty quick.
Right, and we're not sure where the license plate reader is. What we know is it's driving away from the school. So whether it's 10 minutes away from the school, 5 minutes away from the school, it's not clear. But what is clear, and we have another guest joining us. We've just hooked up with in Michigan City, Indiana, private investigator, founder of Victims News Online, Erica Morse. Erica, you've investigated a lot of cases, unfortunately involving missing children. She's got someone with a dead body in the car doing all of this back and forth. What does that tell you, if that's what happened? Is this unusual from your perspective? Is this like something really, really strange is happening? Is it panic, or is it trying to set up some sort of an alibi here?
So last week when we talked about this, Vinny, you and I were both very frustrated by the discrepancies and some of those missing minutes in that window. What I went back and did is looked at Mom's interviews again, and Mom made a reference in one of them to coming home around 8 a.m. or a little after 8. And I think it may have been panic. I think he may have needed to get her out of the house. Additionally, both Mom and offender said that we dropped her off in separate interviews. And that's a problem for me. They weren't interviewed together when they made these slips, and I think that's exactly what it was. I don't know. I've been thinking about this, and I'm starting to wonder if he only went back for the clicker, or if he may have also gone back for Mom.
For Mom?
It's a possibility.
Joel, have you been as confused as we've been by this scurrying around in the morning? And you've got the sheriff saying that he's moving her body around. That's what they believe. But where's he going, and why all these movements?
1,000%. I've been confused. And to your point, I think it is panic coupled with chaos. Whatever time this murder occurred, Stephan Stearns obviously was trying to figure out how to hide this body. But it is so bizarre that they would catch him dropping these backpack and the laptop into the dumpster at 7:35 or so, but then driving to the schools. You have to wonder if he's creating an alibi. But to the private investigator's point, that is something that we analyzed as well on our show, looking at those initial interviews. And by the way, if you're committing a crime, you probably shouldn't be doing TV interviews ahead of time, because people are going back and looking at those. And she does, in fact, say he dropped her off and then slips and says we, and he does the same thing. So what on earth is going on here? I mean, you have to think, and I hate to say this to a grieving mother, that in one fashion or another, she's complicit, whether she's covering for Stephan Stearns or it's something more sinister, but something just does not sit right, does not smell right. This is a horrific, horrific crime.
You know, the other thing that's baffling here, Gray, is we just saw the video of the dumpster. And I mean, the camera couldn't be like more obvious. It's right there. It's like the camera's in front of me. It's unreal. Like, here's the dumpster cam. Like, do you not see that? Do you not notice that?
Yeah.
It's right there. Boom.
Yeah, I mean, that's one of the
Smile.
That's one of the things that makes it. Yeah. I guess that's what makes it seem like he is sort of panicking. Something happened. He gets up and does all these things. Now, here's one thing I will tell you. I think I looked up where the license plate readers are, okay? And one of them that I found was at the intersection of West Donegan Avenue and John Young Parkway, which is that straight, long street that goes down, that you would take to get down to the main 192 and then go back to the apartments. So it sort of makes sense that at 8:10 that would be there. So I'll show you off the air where that is, then you can update people later.
But of course you're on top of it, Gray. I gave you the 30 seconds and boom, you found this. Okay, stay where you are, everyone. Everyone's staying with us. When we come back, we're going to talk about the flat tire. Because he did change a tire. Was it really flat? How did it get flat? Coincidence? Bad luck? What do you think?
The Kissimmee Police Department, along with other law enforcement agencies in Central Florida, continue their search for Madeline for the next several days following her disappearance, and we turn to the public for help. During this time, our investigators combed through a significant number of tips, and on March 1st, we received information placing Stearns' vehicle in a rural area of St. Cloud, where ultimately Madeline's body was discovered.
It was a tip. It was a tip. So significant in all of this. And that's why publicity around a missing person is so important. The awareness of the public that maybe you saw something and you wouldn't know it's important unless you knew about this story and this case and this missing girl. And it happened. Take a look. This was posted on Facebook March 1st from Thomas Karras. I gave the pictures to Osceola County law enforcement as they started their search, and they found where I said I saw him. I saw him around 1:20 Monday, an old hickory tree, pull over on a roundabout that has a cargo shipping container. He was in on the right-hand side heading towards Harmony. He was wearing a green, light brown hat backwards. I didn't see anyone else in the vehicle. He was outside the car at the back left tire with a tire iron. Looked like he was changing it, but couldn't say for sure. All this stuff. Seems like it pans out. Got the name of the road wrong. It's Hickory Tree, not Old Hickory Tree. Let's take a listen. Cody Thomas, our producer, was down there and kind of walks us around the area where this flat tire was.
Now, just across the street here in this area, this little divot off of Hickory Road, is where a witness online describes where he saw Stephan Stearns kneeling down, changing a tire that morning, February 26th, when Maddie Soto went missing. Now, you can see it's just a little gravel divot. A lot of flat land back here, private farmland. Now, police describe the area they saw that flat tire situation on Old Hickory Road. There's an Old Hickory Road and a Hickory Road. Hickory Road, again, across the street where Madeline Soto's body was found. So there could be a little confusion as far as what witnesses may or may not have saw between the two, that is Hickory Road and Old Hickory Road. But one thing we do know, again, right across the street, and that tree line behind that memorial, over the fence, is where Madeline Soto's body was found on March 1st.
And one other thing we know is that that back left tire, which was photographed, was changed. That's a spare. That is clear. Ken Jackson, Osceola News-Gazette. This witness coming forward, I think, was the only way you were going to find her in a timely fashion.
Well, that may have been one of the tips that that police used to find her on that Friday. I know there were about 4 or 5 locations between Orange and Osceola County that police were looking for either her or the body. Something that they noted about at this site there. Your producer, walked around that gravel area, which is across the street from the bushes where the body was found. Now, on the other side of the street, and that right there you're seeing that is on the opposite side of the street where it was found. On the same side of the street, there is a little alcove there where someone who's driving down the road would be able to pull off as well. Okay, maybe I'm coming from a common sense point of if you were going to be dumping something like a body there, you would be on the same side of the street, get it done quickly. We've got them in that area between 1 and 2:30, which is broad daylight, an odd time to be doing something like that. I would do it in the middle of the night. Not that I have a point of reference for it.
But that makes a lot of sense, right? Rather than cross the street with the body. Let me ask you, Erica Morris, this 1:20 time to me is significant. And I'm wondering what you're thinking. Mom is going to pick her up at 4. This is the routine. The routine is to pick her up at 4. The school at the time, they've now changed what they do, but the school doesn't call you until the end of the day to tell you that your child wasn't there. So if Mom is totally out of the loop, he's got to get this done. He can't wait till after dark and have a body in the car if Mom doesn't know about this.
Correct. And we are still unclear as to what Mom knows because she's already given inaccurate / false statements to the police about this. I'm trying to think here. Sorry, I lost the question. Can you go back to it again, Vinny? I apologize.
Well, I was saying the time, 1:20. He's up against it because, the end of the school day is the end of the school day. That's when it's going to be very apparent that Madeline did not go to school.
Correct. Yeah. Sorry, I was going back to that gate. Yeah, he definitely had to do it. And when we talked about this last week, we were talking about him, I think, just driving out in the middle of nowhere and trying to find an available spot. And I think that gate being open on that particular day, that cattle owner, that rancher who feels horrible, feels very guilty that he left that gate open. And I really think he would have just... I think she would have ended up in the first available spot. I think that he chose that out of opportunity more than anything. But whether it's a mom, whether it's a bus driver, whether it's a teacher, whether it's somebody, some adult was going to begin trying to account for this child's whereabouts around 4 p.m.
Gray Hughes, that area, like he is spotted there. And I'm wondering, in his mind, does he have to have a reason to pull over, and that's why there's a flat tire if he is seen? Because he's got to know that there's cars driving by. They may be able to identify him. But then on the other hand, it makes no sense to leave the body where you have stopped your car, because that could lead to you the way it did right here.
Yeah, I mean, I think that it is an actual flat tire that he had, and I think he was heading somewhere else, much further away, to put her body in the woods somewhere where nobody could find her. And that's why he's on the other side of the road. And then he stopped as fast as he could, because he's not going to want to drive around where a police officer is going to have to pull over and ask what's going on. So he literally, I think he is fixing the tire, because we see that it's replaced. And then he carries her body across and puts it over there, and was, lucky. He probably picked a spot. You can drive on a bad tire for a little bit of time. So he looked over there and he saw that gate's open, and then he walked over there. And that's why she's so close to the road. And I tend to believe that he literally got a flat tire, and it was a miracle, because the thing is, when you have a flat tire, everybody remembers, right? They drive by and go, oh, there was this guy that had a flat tire. If you just pull over and park, you're not likely to be remembered, because it's just a car pulled over on the side of the road. But if it has a flat tire, you turn your head, look to see if somebody needs help, and you notice it. So that would be a stupid thing to do strategically.
Yeah. Joe Waldman, you know, I'm looking at this whole thing, the way it has played out. It doesn't seem like it's planned out at all. It seems very reactive.
100% with you on that, and with Gray Hughes as well. I'm on his side when it comes to his take on what happened. Look, I think we're trying to compute this and trying to make sense of this when this act was done in a completely irrational way. I don't think Stephan Stearns had any sense of, mind at the time. I think he was all over the place, and there'd be absolutely no reason. If you go back to that timeline, 8:10, he drives by Hunters Creek Middle School. In that case, maybe he's trying to set up an alibi so someone sees him and says, oh, he dropped her off at school. In this case, what upside potential is there for him to get a flat tire, for anyone to see him when he's that many miles away? And that's where they discover the body. There's absolutely no chance he did it on purpose. I think he had a flat tire. It was bad luck, and this might be what ultimately could get him the death penalty if he is charged with murder here.
Absolutely, and the point where we are in this entire investigation is the last we've heard from Kissimmee PD. They're putting together the timeline. They're working with the state attorney's office as well. They're in no rush because Stephan Stearns, as the prime suspect, is already in custody for all the charges related to what was found or allegedly found on his phone. A big thank you to everyone tonight. Joel Waldman, host of the Surviving the Survivor podcast, Ken Jackson, Osceola News-Gazette, Erica Morris, private investigator, and Gray Hughes. Gray Hughes Investigates on YouTube. Great to see everyone tonight. Thank you for joining our discussion and our investigation, and we'll do it again very, very soon.